Hello, horse racing fans, and welcome back to another horse racing analysis. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the Saudi Cup. This is the only race that I have managed to try and analyze every year of its existence, so obligatorily, I'm going to have to do this one. Now, some are a little disappointed with this year's running, and yeah, it's definitely not the strongest iteration of the Saudi Cup, but it still has plenty of cool combinations to look at and some pretty interesting contenders. So, let's get into it, shall we? First up is a horse that I've made no secret is a sentimental favorite of mine, and that's Ushba Tesoro, last year's runner-up in the Saudi Cup by the slimmest of margins. He's a charming horse and incredibly talented, with a victory in the Dubai World Cup 2 years ago, and a nose defeat in the richest race in the world. That's no small feat. He's done a lot of amazing things, but at 8 years old, I don't know how much more he has in him. In his preparation for this year's Saudi Cup, he's taken a lot of the same steps that he did for last year's renewal, running in the TVA, the Breeders' Cup Classic, and the Tokyo Deshoten. The difference is that in the 2024 Saudi Cup, he went into it with 2 victories, both in Japan. This time around, he's on a losing streak. As the defending champion of the TVA, he came up short, and then he was more soundly beaten in his title defense of the Tokyo Deshoten against the new star in town, Forever Young. So the question is his time gone? I will remain a little bit hopeful. I want to see an 8-year-old win the richest race in the world because that would mean a lot. And also, Ushba Tesoro is an awesome horse. But he's never looked worse going into one of his big international races. Next up, we have a new player in the Saudi Cup, Argentina. We've only had one South American-based horse run in the Saudi Cup, and they were Brazilian-born and based in Uruguay. This time, we have Argentina, which has been a great international player for many years. While not every Argentine horse has done great things overseas, the amount that have is certainly quite a huge number. Most recently, we saw Full Serrano win the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, showing that they haven't lost any steam. And if you go a ways back, Argentina has won the richest races in the world, with the Dubai World Cup being taken by the immortal Invasor. This year, they have 2 horses representing them. The first one is Intense for Me, who won Argentina's biggest race, the Gran Premio Carlos Pellegrini. One small problem: he's never won on the dirt. He's ran on the dirt, but he hasn't since the start of his career, and the best performance he had was a 3rd place finish in a maiden race, and he was rather soundly beaten. He's clearly one of Argentina's best on the turf, but he's yet to prove himself on dirt. Now, on the other hand, turf horses with little to no dirt experience have proven successful. Mishrif and Pantalaza had never won races on dirt before they took the Saudi Cup, although they had other factors which did help them. So it's not impossible for Intense for Me to handle the dirt surface, it's just a huge and very concerning question mark, especially when there's already a better Argentine horse to pick from. Personally, I would have thought that the Red Sea Turf Handicap would have been a better pick, but I'm not this horse's trainer, and I know not much about this horse besides his career statistics. So, maybe they know something I don't. But for now, I'm going to be a major skeptic when it comes to this participant. And then, continuing the trend of unproven turf horses running on the dirt for the first time, we have Romantic Warrior, who is about to make me a hypocrite. Now, why would I be more hesitant towards Intense for Me, but be more eager to choose a horse like Romantic Warrior, with even less dirt experience? Well, it comes down to the simple fact that it's Romantic freaking Warrior. He has traveled to 4 different countries for Group 1 races, and has managed to win a Group 1 race in all of them. He is an incredible traveler, easily able to get accustomed to different tracks, and even slight changes in surface, even if it is on grass. He is such a good globetrotter, so that helps negate some of the difficulties that other traveling horses may have to deal with. He's done this plenty of times, even if it isn't on dirt. He also does train semi-frequently on Hong Kong's dirt surface. His trainers and connections like his training on the dirt, although there were some concerns that he finished one of his last works a little too fast, but take that for what you will. Through his time as a racehorse, he has fought many top-class racehorses down to the bitter end, and still comes out on top. He is just so much classier than the rest of the field. If he can just transfer some of that incredible grit and tenacity towards the Saudi dirt, he's going to be incredibly hard to defeat. He's just one of the classiest racehorses that we have seen this decade and possibly this century. And that kind of talent is more than capable of running in less than advantageous scenarios like the dirt. If we're going way back, take a look at a horse like Dr. Fager. Dr. Fager, in his one race on dirt, ran on a surface that he hated, but he was just so much classier than the rest of the field that he was able to prevail even in situations that were not to his advantage. Obviously a very extreme scenario, but I think this horse has just hints of that same class, although he's a totally different horse than Dr. Fager. Just a brief comparison to make a point. I have faith in Romantic Warrior. I really hope he can do this. Number 4 is a very game horse named Wootton'sun Tesoro. This horse I feel a little bad for sometimes, because throughout his career, he has finished second in many major races, including twice in the Champions Cup, which I think if he had a slightly better trip with less traffic, I think he could have defeated Lemon Pop, but that's horse racing for you. He's also been second in international races like the Korea Cup, and also other Japanese Group 1 races. And these losses come to horses like Ushba Tesoro, the recently retired Lemon Pop, and Crown Pride, along with the big elephant in the room, Forever Young. He does a good job. He usually stalks, and he's able to beat most horses, but there's usually one horse with a better finishing kick on the front end that he simply can't run down. Or if he's running down a racehorse at Chukio, he gets into too much trouble, and he runs out of real estate. This race will be a change of pace for him because quite a few of the races that he does participate in are at longer distances and actually have up to 3 turns in a race. Meanwhile, this is going to be a 1-turn route race, so slight difference, but if Ushba Tesoro can handle it, then I think he could too. The big worry with this horse is that he's going to be having to deal with Forever Young, a horse who quite masterfully handled him in the Tokyo Shoten, holding him off comfortably along with Ushba Tesoro and Ramjet, who is another participant from Japan in this year's Saudi Cup. Wilson has Group 1 capabilities, and has even reversed the order against horses like Crown Pride and Ushba Tesoro, but I just think that he's slightly outcompeted. He's more of an understudy Japanese representative, and it's going to be hard for him to even just beat his own group, let alone all the other international horses, but maybe he could do something, get up for second or third. Number 5, Wootton'sun, the first of the Saudi-based imported horses, originally from France, during his time in Saudi Arabia, starting in 2024, he has won 2 times from 5 starts, and has finished in the top 3 in 4 of them. That's a pretty good record. However, one thing that I'm a little concerned about is the fact that he seems to prefer longer than 1.1 miles. His worst performance, a 9th place finish last year, was at the distance, although he has since somewhat redeemed it with a 3rd place finish in the local Custodian of the Holy Mosque Saudi Cup prep race. However, the 2 horses he was beaten by in that race, Rattle N Roll and Wait to Excel, are going to be running in the Saudi Cup as well, so he'll have to deal with 2 horses who have already outperformed him at the 1.1 miles, and he'll have to deal with the rest of the world. His best performances came at the 1-turn 1.25 miles, which is pretty impressive for any racetrack to be able to do, and also a victory at 1.5 miles. He can stalk or move a little further behind and find some success, but similar to Wootton'sun Tesoro, if you want to choose a horse in the Saudi Cup under this particular umbrella, you have better choices. So for that particular reason, I'm personally going to skip him. Number 6, Walk of Stars, the Dubai-based representative for this year's Saudi Cup. Last year we had Isolate, who was a fast horse, having won the Godolphin Mile in 2023, but distance was going to be the primary concern. It proved to be a valid one, as he fated to be 6th. In fact, he was also outrun for the early lead by horses like Saudi Crown. Walk of Stars is similarly fast as Isolate. The two of them got into a pace duel in the Godolphin Mile, which Walk of Stars actually won, although he lost the race the 2 rivers over. More recently, he's used his front-running strategy to win 2 straight races in Dubai, including a Group 1 race in the El Maktoum Challenge. He sweeps past and takes the lead, and then sets a nice pace for him to hold off all comers. That's what he's done in his last 2 starts. So unlike Isolate, he is proven at both one turn and as a router, so he'll be a little more well-rounded than last year's participant. He has fighting qualities, but more importantly, this year's Saudi Cup isn't nearly as fast. The 2024 Saudi Cup had such speedy horses as National Treasure, Saudi Crown, etc., etc. This year, there isn't nearly as much going on the front end, so Walk of Stars has a much easier time setting the pace. His only other worry would be Musmak. So while there still is some area for concern considering the horses he'll have to run against being tougher than he's ever faced before, there is a chance that he could steal the race on the front end, which is something to consider. Number 7, Rattle N Roll, the lone American representative. Some might be a bit underwhelmed to not see horses like White Abario or Locked trying to run in the Saudi Cup, and I totally get it. Sierra Leone was personally my biggest disappointment, but that was out of our control. That's just horse racing for ya. Rattle N Roll, though, I think is a legitimately good contender to win the Saudi Cup. Even if he is not America's best, he clearly, on class alone, is pretty good. Having a 2-race winning streak is a pretty nice thing to have, especially when you ran in a decent race like the Clark Stakes, and then were able to transfer that form into a race in Saudi Arabia, the local prep race. He took on a full field, navigated through the giant field effortlessly, and ran away to win by a couple of lengths while also being a come-from-behind horse. Usually in America, he kind of has to struggle out a win, but he glided over the surface and ran away with it. Now, of course, his competition is going to be a bit harder this time around, but he's had much more time to get used to the Saudi dirt than other American horses in the past. His name is kind of appropriate for his running style, because he does get on a roll when he wins. He slowly just builds himself up, accelerating faster and faster, and holding on to that speed long enough to wear down his opponents, whether it's in a confident victory like he did in Saudi, or the tough battles that he's won in the Clark Stakes or the Pimlico Special. He's a classy, good horse. A light grade 1, strong grade 2 type of horse. And that can be enough to win an international race, especially one as wide open as this. Don't count this horse out. We Americans could finally get back into the winner's circle sooner than you think. Number 8, Way to Excel, the runner-up to Rattle N Roll in Saudi last time out, hoping to do one better, but he has a bit of a tall order. Usually, he's a stalker, and on a good day, he'll use his stalking abilities to then take over the lead and run away with the race. I don't think it's going to be that easy this time around. He ran well to lose to Rattle N Roll, but Rattle N Roll, he beat him pretty confidently, and he's going to have to deal with a lot more than his Rattle N Roll this time around. He's at least familiar with both the track and the distance, having 2 victories over the Saudi Cup distance of 1,800 meters, including one where he ran a better finishing time than Rattle N Roll by nearly a second. But times clearly aren't everything, as Rattle N Roll was able to easily defeat him. But it's something interesting to at least keep in mind. He's a good Saudi-based horse, and probably one of the ones that you would pick if you were going to pick a horse who has strong Saudi experience, but I still think that he is outclassed. Number 9, Ramjet. This horse is interesting. He is a recently turned 4-year-old taking on the world in the Saudi Cup, just like Forever Young, except he's a bit more local. He isn't as internationally traveled. At his best, he had a 4-race winning streak, including races like the Hyacinth, the Unicorn, and the local Group 1 Tokyo Derby. But most recently, he's hit a little bit of a slump, twice against Forever Young. First, he had just kind of a bad performance where he finished 4th, and then he ran well, but kind of piddled out a little bit in the final furlong of the Tokyo Dashoten, where he lost to both Forever Young and Wootton'sun Tesoro, a horse that I already have mixed feelings about. When he's good, he's really good. He can come from dead last and swallow an entire field, or stalk and just use one sweeping move to take the lead and run away. That is decent. He could fly late and do something crazy, but he's also outcompeted by some of his other Japanese brethren. For all I know, those Japanese horses could run on top of each other, kind of like the 2023 Saudi Cup, but for now, I'm going to say that Ramjet, while a good horse, is just below. Number 11, Musmak. This horse comes from Great Britain and actually has more in common with Rattle N Roll than the other Saudi-based horses, as he only has one career start in the country of Saudi Arabia, and just like with Rattle N Roll, he made a great first impression. Unlike Rattle N Roll, who was a come-from-behind horse who just motored past everybody, Musmak instead went to the lead and ran everyone off their feet in a race that had a slower time, but he was way more commanding than even Rattle N Roll, winning with a grander margin. Now, on that visual surface level, that is pretty impressive. However, he hasn't really beaten the same caliber of horses that Rattle N Roll had to beat. It's not like the second and third place finishers in that race were also running in the Saudi Cup as well. But one thing that he does have is the fact that he is a frontrunner. The only other horse in this race with quite a bit of early speed is Walk of Stars, so Musmak doesn't have a lot of competition for that lead, so he can run a favorable race. But as we've seen with good horses like Saudi Crown, just because you get a favorable lead, just like you want, you have to still be able to hold off late competitors. And that's going to be the big question and concern for Musmak. I have more confidence that Walk of Stars could hold off a late fury of horses than Musmak, but still, if you want front-running horses that could steal the race, this horse is a great long shot pick. Number 12, Defunded. Now, some of you who remember him from his American exploits might be surprised to hear that he is still in fact racing. But he is. He was purchased and is now based in Saudi Arabia, with his debut being in last year's Saudi Cup, where he finished 7th, being just simply run off his feet. After then losing the Dubai World Cup, he's ran 2 more times in Saudi Arabia. The first time he was 5th, and the second time he managed to get a victory under his belt. All 3 of his Saudi races have been at the Saudi Cup distance of 1,800 meters. So if you look at it like that, he has technically been improving, going from 7th to 5th to then 1st, but I still don't think it's enough. He's always seemed kind of slow and sluggish to me, and now at the age of 7, he seems past his prime. Sure, he can win a allowance race and do it with a decent amount of gusto, but there are other horses who have already won at the same racetrack with even more finesse than him, and seem to have a lot more potential. Maybe that victory in his last start is a slight indication that he still has something left, and he at least will have way less to worry about on the front end, so maybe he'll enjoy the pace a bit better, but I think there's way better choices than him. Number 13, Facteur Cheval. While mostly a turf horse, he does have a lot of qualities that'll be translatable to the Saudi Cup. His biggest victory was the Dubai Turf, which is a race very similar to the Saudi Cup, being a one-turn route. Even though it's on grass, it had the same sort of style to it. Now, for the dirt, he actually already has a race under it, his most recent start where he ran 3rd to Walk of Stars. He did okay, and the hope is that he'll appreciate the Riyadh dirt surface more, which I think is a decent theory, considering mostly turf horses like Mishrif have used that to victory. I could see a good performance here, and it's very commendable that they're willing to try him on dirt and properly prepare him for it with a prep race like the El Maktoum. But the one thing that is still worrying is, can he win? Facteur Cheval is a bridesmaid horse, in so many ways. Besides his win in the Dubai Turf, almost all of his top Group 1 performances have been 2nd or 3rd place finishes. For his 6 career victories, he has managed to finish in 2nd or 3rd place 10 times, nearly twice as frequently. Maybe there's a chance that his switch to dirt will realize his full potential, but otherwise, I don't really see it with Facteur Cheval. I think that he could be a good 2nd or 3rd place finish, but that's just because that's the kind of horse he is. Number 13, El Kodigo, the other Argentine horse. While he did lose the Pellegrini to Intense for me, on the dirt, El Kodigo is one of the best in all of South America, taking major Group 1 races in Argentina and Uruguay, from distances as short as 1 mile all the way up to 2,500 meters. While some of his biggest performances have been at the above-average distances of nearly 1.5 miles, or even a little bit over, El Kodigo has also proven successful in one-turn route races, including the one that you're seeing in front of you, at 1,800 meters with a chute, the same sort of race that the Saudi Cup is going to be, so he's at least proven in that style of race successfully. And he technically does have success traveling to other countries to win, with his win in Uruguay being his last prep race, so he already has 2 countries under his belt, but now he has to go all the way from South America to Asia. It'll be a huge leap for him, and similarly accomplished horses, like Aerotrim, who was based in Uruguay and then went on to run in the Saudi Cup, still struggled even though they were similarly as accomplished in the continent of South America. So there is going to be some concern as to if El Kodigo is so good that he can take on not just the best in his continent, but the best in the world. I'm personally going to lean more towards the cautious side and not use him, but do keep in mind, Argentina should never be fully counted out in international affairs, with such great horses like Invasor managing to take on the whole world. And finally, number 14, the main attraction, the horse to beat, his race to lose, Forever Young. One of the coolest examples of a modern international racehorse, being able to hop between countries all the time and take on the world's best and hold his own in almost every aspect, running in races like the Kentucky Derby and only losing by 2 heads, along with totally dominating Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and of course, his home country of Japan, beating all the best they had to offer. Specifically in Japan, all the Japanese representatives in this year's Saudi Cup have lost to Forever Young at least once. They just can't beat this guy. And along with Ushba Tesoro, he's the only Japanese representative with prior experience in Riyadh. And not just that, the Saudi Derby was one of the most impressive races from a 3-year-old I've ever seen, getting jostled around early, having to make up ground, and then beating a sprinter in Buckham Dano, who became a Grade 1 winner, on the wrong lead leg. He had every excuse to lose, but he didn't. Now, he'll get an extra furlong of distance, something that he'll prefer as a 1.25 mile horse, and he's a year wiser, stronger, everything. He seems nearly invincible. But of course, it's horse racing. There are definitely ways that he could lose. Romantic Warrior could freak on the dirt just as well as he did on the turf, and show that age and experience can outdo raw talent. Or another horse could do it. But in terms of doing everything right, you don't get much better than Forever Young. And that concludes this field for the Saudi Cup. I know their Scotland Yard isn't also eligible, but I think that even if he draws in, he has little chance of winning, especially after his poor performance in his last start against fellow Saudi participants like Rattle N Roll or Wait to Excel, so I'm just gonna toss him. So who am I gonna go with this year? Well, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to eat chalk. Forever Young and Romantic Warrior are my 2 main horses. It's their race to settle. Those 2 are going to be the big adversaries, and it's going to be everyone else trying to find some way to defeat them. For a good 3rd horse, as an American, I am partial to Rattle N Roll, but I also really like Walk of Stars. I think that his front-running style gives him an inherent advantage over many of the other horses in this field. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down who you're picking in the Saudi Cup, and if you have a differing opinion. Hope you guys are excited, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys next time.